With its groundbreaking visual effects and motion capture, dazzling 3D technology, and the introduction of a planet in Pandora that would inspire a plan for at least 4 sequels, Avatar made a significant statement when it debuted in theaters back in 2009. The movie was an instant hit with audiences, and ticket sales poured in right away and didn't stop until it almost surpassed $3 billion off of a $237 million budget. Even after nearly 14 years, Avatar's position at the top of the list of all-time highest-grossing movies has mostly remained unchallenged. Avengers: Endgame, the last chapter of the almost 21-year adventure known as the Infinity Saga that began with 2008's Iron Man and was built up with stories from 21 movies before it, was the only movie to ever come close to topple the monster known as Avatar. The anticipation was unprecedented as fans had to wait a whole year to learn the full consequences of Thanos' snap. Avengers: Endgame has an estimated budget of between $356 million and $400 million, making it one of the most costly movies ever filmed, even though it doesn't seem like much in comparison to its box office receipts. The follow-up to the 2009 film Avatar was once scheduled to come out in 2014, but as we all know, it didn't happen until the end of 2022. Avatar: The Way of Water came down with such a thunderous bang that it reminded us all to never underestimate James Cameron and the power of Pandora. With delay after delay, it began to feel as though these supposedly follow-up Avatar films may never materialize. Even while it didn't quite reach the heights of the first Avatar, the $2.31 billion in worldwide box office receipts isn't the worst kind of reward. Budget estimates for Avatar: The Way of Water ranged from $350 million to $460 million. Only 2 of James Cameron's films are in the top 5 highest-grossing movies of all time, but he isn't satisfied with that. He simply had to have a third with his terrible depiction of the Titanic's catastrophic trip across the sea, starring Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet. It wasn't until 2009 that James Cameron's Avatar overtook Titanic as the highest-grossing movie of all time. Titanic was the first movie to ever make over $1 billion globally. After Avatar, Titanic was the only other movie to ever gross $2 billion when it was re-released in 3D in 2012. Whatever your opinion of how the Star Wars prequel trilogy ended, it was a big deal when Star Wars Episode 7: The Force Awakens was announced and released. It was not only the first installment in the series since Revenge of the Sith and the contentious prequel trilogy, but it was also the first movie and significant undertaking after the Walt Disney Company acquired Lucasfilm. Without George Lucas, The Force Awakens would forge a new course in that far-off galaxy and seek to commemorate the past while also unveiling what Star Wars might become in the future. On a budget of between $300 million and $450 million, the promise resulted in enormous ticket sales of over $2 billion. Avengers: Infinity War was the movie that showed the world that Marvel could pull it off, even though Avengers: Endgame may have triumphed at the box office. Infinity War, on the whole, lives up to the expectations after 18 flicks and hints of Thanos and our heroes teaming up for one final struggle to preserve everything. However, even before that was known, the anticipation of what was to come filled countless numbers of seats globally, resulting in a $2.05 billion global box office haul. The fourth movie to surpass $2 billion at the box office was Avengers: Infinity War, the first superhero movie to do so. Even though Spider-Man: No Way Home wasn't an Avengers picture, it definitely felt like one since it brought together so many Spider-Man characters that it was almost as big of an event as any other movie. Although it wasn't verified until the movie's release, fans all around the world assumed it would reunite Tom Holland with Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield for a magnificent adventure, which encouraged them to purchase tickets. Although the plot as a whole had some flaws, it succeeded in evoking memories and received some really remarkable applause in the theater. The highest-grossing Spider-Man movie, No Way Home, was the top earner in 2021. It becomes more and more obvious that movies from legendary series that return decades later with some of the original characters in tow are a definite method to generate enormous box office receipts. Along with everyone's love of enormous dinosaurs, Jurassic World has everything going for it. With a solid $1.67 billion box office haul, Jurassic World made a triumphant return to theaters after grossing just $368.78 million and $978.16 million, respectively, in the first and third Jurassic Park films, respectively. In the new trilogy, the sequels could never quite match the success of the first film, but both movies made over $1 billion worldwide, demonstrating that dinosaurs are here to stay. Many people think that the 1994 version of The Lion King is one of Disney's best movies. It was also one of its most profitable, grossing $968.51 million globally. It's a good thing they chose to make it a live-action version since it blew over that target on the route to a $1.66 billion run. I'm sure the House of Mouse would have wanted it to surpass the $1 billion threshold. The Lion King, the first Disney-branded film on the list, came in at number 9, and Frozen 2, which earned $1.40 billion, came in at number 13. Although we liked the movie, reviews were not unanimous. There was an idea, as the great Nick Fury once stated. The plan was to expand the MCU and team together the biggest heroes and villains from Marvel's comics to create a cinematic series unlike anything we had ever seen. The Avengers, 2012, demonstrated that this was one of the best ideas ever. The first of the several team-ups between our heroes was a rollicking success with a worldwide total of $1.52 billion, demonstrating that Marvel Studios was able to land this lofty plane before embarking on many more. The racing and action franchise, which is actually just about family, has become bigger and more extravagant with each new installment since 2001's The Fast and the Furious. Even though they have all had excellent box office success internationally, only two movies, Furious 7 and The Fate of the Furious, have managed to rank among the top 100 all-time global grossing movies. The movie that outperformed the competition and gave the late Paul Walker and his character Brian O'Connor a fitting send-off was Furious 7, which finished with a $1.51 billion domestic gross. Many people anticipated that Top Gun: Maverick would be a huge event, but I doubt that many anticipated just how big of a deal it would actually turn out to be. Tom Cruise returned in the follow-up to 1986's Top Gun, and the creative team behind the movie created a plot with both new and old characters that received acclaim from critics everywhere. Not only was there a lot of heart in the plot, but the fast-paced moments with fighter aircraft, which were accomplished with groundbreaking realistic effects, all combined to produce the ideal storm of a movie that remained generating ticket sales weeks after its debut. It currently proudly occupies a spot at the top of all-time highest-grossing films with a $1.49 billion total. Frozen Let It Go from the 2013 film Frozen may be one of the most well-known Disney songs of all time after being played millions of times, but its follow-up charted earlier, landing at position 15. Don't get us wrong, Frozen's $1.28 million worldwide total is still extremely great, but it enabled the sequel to surpass films like Avengers, Age of Ultron and Black Panther and reach $1.45 billion. Avengers, Age of Ultron, the Avengers movie with the lowest global box office take, nonetheless managed to place in the top 15 with $1.40 billion. It joins Star Wars, The Force Awakens, Jurassic World, and Furious 7 as one of the 4 2015 movies to appear in the top 15. The production of Avengers, Age of Ultron cost over $365 million, so Marvel was undoubtedly pleased with the outcome. Fun fact: due to its release date clashing with Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Manny Pacquiao's boxing battle, some analysts think Avengers, Age of Ultron's opening weekend box office receipts were a little lower than they could have been. Black Panther, the sixth film from the MCU to receive this honor. The late Chadwick Boseman's performance in this movie helped it become the highest-grossing solo superhero picture, the third highest-grossing MCU film, the highest-grossing superhero movie, and the highest-grossing movie by a black filmmaker. Additionally, it was the first superhero movie to be nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards and the first movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe to take home multiple awards. With a value of $1.34 billion, it has a lasting history, much like its hero.